think we lose a lot of our imagination when we grow up, right? So we forget to be creative and innovative along the way. If you didn't have to have all that baggage of your business, what would you want it to be like? Every business is like a giant jigsaw puzzle, how it all works together. To me, that's the most exciting part about a business, is figuring out how to make it work.
All right, guys, we have Susan Schmidt Bryant in the studio today. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Rick. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
I've been waiting for this. This is going to be awesome.
All right. It's going to be, let's talk all things accounting, tax, how to make your business more profitable, how to save money on taxes. I mean, this stuff gets me fired up.
It sounds like it. That's awesome. Susan, can you tell our audience a little bit about you?
Absolutely. So I'm a CPA. I'm a certified tax planner. I am been either a business owner or working with business owners for 20-something years, which is kind of hard to say out loud. And my specialty, yeah, right? Like, how did that happen? Like, went by really fast. My specialty is really helping business owners to maximize profits, optimize their tax strategies so they could keep more money working for them so that they could in turn make more profits. And kind of the overarching mission for all of that work is to preserve and protect the entrepreneurial wealth that they're building. So that is what we focus on. And that takes many different forms, but that's really the thing that is like, I can believe that's the mission of my life. That's the thing that's near and dearest to my heart. I love helping entrepreneurs to take what they have already started to create and make it even better, and find all these tips, tricks, things that they don't know how to apply, like maybe the tools in the toolbox, how to apply them to their business so it can be even better.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a conversation that often happens. You know, it's just like, okay, I'm making money, but you know, it's like, I don't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? How did you get into this? What was your journey like?
Like backwards, you know, have you ever seen that Facebook meme where it's like success and like people expect it to be like a straight line, straight up, right? But really what it is like,
Yeah.
Okay. So, when I was in high school, I was voted most likely to succeed, which was a great honor. I was really excited to receive this honor. But then I didn't get admitted into the UT Business School on my first try. And I was like, what? This is like wrong. So I went through the process of like getting all these letters of recommendation and all this stuff. And I got in, and I started pursuing a degree in marketing. And that sounded so.
It doesn't sound like accounting.
You know, right? Like, it's like those two things don't sound the same. They don't mean the same thing. But I started taking accounting classes because the people in the Career Center said, Susan, you will get a good job if you have more hours of accounting. And I could hear my mother in my ear saying, Susan, you need a good job. When you get like, we're paying for 4 years of college, you must have a good job coming out of college. So I said, all right, I'm going to take some accounting hours. And then I just kind of fell in love with accounting. It's just like one of those things where it's like, you don't know what you don't know until you start doing it. And I just loved it. So I just kept doing more and more and more and more and more. Unfortunately, at that particular time, I went to UT in Austin and they didn't have anything like a double major, or there was no such thing. So I just got a bunch of accounting hours and I said, I'm going to sit for the CPA exam one day and I'm going to pass it. And that's kind of what I did. So I am like the weirdest CPA because I don't even have a degree in accounting.
Oh wow. So you finished a degree in marketing and then you sat for the CPA exam at some point.
Yeah, I did. My first job out of college, I was an internal auditor for Bank One. I had been a bank teller all during part of high school and all during college. And so banking just seemed like a natural transition. And then I went on to take the CPA exam and I passed it. I think I was like 24 when I passed it. I passed all 4 parts on my first try.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah, 17 weeks of my life studying, doing that, like working and doing that. That's pretty much it. And then I decided to get into public accounting. I went to work at a super small firm where it was like the partner and me, and I did everything. Right. So he said, Susan, figure it out. And so I'm a self-starter. I like figure out like a jigsaw puzzle person. I love figuring out how things all fit together. So public accounting has been like a big giant jigsaw puzzle for me. And along the way, learning how business owners think and every business is like a giant jigsaw puzzle, how it all works together. To me, that's the most exciting part about a business is figuring out how to make it work perfectly.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, absolutely. It's interesting. Again, just thinking in terms of, being that business owner, working with lots of business owners, it's like, you focus on doing what you do. You focus on, accounting, other folks, hey, I'm a marketing person, I'm this and that, this and that. And it's almost like sometimes, the money aspect of it, almost gets in the way. It's certainly building that financial structure, building that financial operation isn't really, that first and foremost thing that you're thinking about. How do you, so when you're working with a company, how do you start to like, dig in? Where do you start?
Well, we let curiosity lead the way. The beginning part for anything in the world of a business from a financial perspective is to always look at their accounting records, of course. It tells a lot about the business. It tells a lot about the business owner's priorities, where they have focused. It lends itself to not only understanding, spending and cash flow, but how things are priced, their revenue structure and model, their mix, where they invest their money, whether that's employees or equipment. So the accounting is really the beginning piece. Generally, and I think Rick, you probably see this letter talk to a lot of business owners where they struggle with what accounting records, or I think I updated those maybe I don't know, 3 months ago, 6 months ago. Like I did that for last year's taxes, and that's the piece that holds a lot of people back. Is it's hard to do any of the proactive stuff that people really, really want in their financial lives until that piece gets fixed. So there's a lot of, accounting is a discipline, just like so many other things in a business. It's just a discipline.
Yeah. I thought you were going to, how do you set up your pricing? Because that's that other piece, it's just like, oh, well, I'm making more than I spend, but
right. I'm always surprised by the number of people who haven't changed their prices or evaluated their prices or use their imagination to say, well, just because I've been doing it this way, maybe since the beginning of my business, is this the best way to do it? Is there another way to do it? Could I be doing things differently to encourage people to buy my services or products differently? I think we lose a lot of our imagination when we grow up, right? So we forget to be creative and innovative along the way. Or we just kind of get in a rut. It's like those neural pathway ruts. We're just like that. This is just the path of least resistance. Just go that way. And it's nice.
This is what I know. This is what I keep doing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So just keep coming back and saying, like, if I could just start over, what would it look like? Right. So that doesn't mean you have to start over. It just means like if you didn't have to have all that baggage of your business from well, this is the way I've always done it. What would you want it to be like? Like it's okay. And even though that seems like a weird thing for an accountant to say, sometimes it's those mentalities that really limit a business owner. Like, well, I can't change the billing for that customer. I can't. Well, why can't you? It's a limiting belief system in there. Like, well, I can't. They're going to get upset. Well, really, they're professionals. They're adults. You can have a conversation and say, hey, I'd like to find a better way to set this up for you and for me. It makes more sense. Like, they're going to have a conversation with you. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, I was going to go into the price of coffee doubling, but our prices didn't double. How to say?
Yeah.
Tell me your thoughts along the lines of pricing. Tell me your thoughts or your approach to like value pricing.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I am a student of Ron Baker, and he's definitely more I think, famous in the world of accounting. He is often referred to in the accounting profession as the father of value pricing. So he started value pricing in 1995 in the world of public accounting. When everybody else was billing by the hour, he was really wanting to drive his pricing based on the value that was created. And when I first started becoming a student of his, this was maybe I don't know, 5-7 years ago or something like that. I was 1995, I had just graduated from high school and this man was doing value pricing. And we've been billing by the hour for how long? Mind blown. Anyway, value pricing to me is, and ultimately, even where Ron Baker starts to teach is, it's even the subscription pricing is getting more focused on those outcomes as opposed to the amount of time something takes. Really, my clients and every other, customer on this planet really want some type of outcome from that product or service that they're buying. There's a reason that they're buying it. And that price in their mind, they're willing to pay more if that problem gets solved faster, if it's more effective, if in their mind, the perception of that solution is just easier to them, less stress, less friction, all of those things. And so I would encourage anybody who is grappling with pricing, especially people trying to make that leap from maybe hourly pricing to value pricing to subscription, to go read everything you can that Ron Baker has published. And I've been on a million podcasts and everything. He's brilliant when it comes to value pricing. And I'm a huge proponent. In my previous firm that I worked at, we moved everything to value pricing. Despite all of those, well, we can't do that. Are you sure we can do that? Everything got moved to value pricing and billed monthly. There was accounts receivable got eliminated. It's possible.
How do you do that? I mean, how do you make that transition?
Well, you say, we're going to change this. You change it. And you just start. I mean, I know that sounds super I feel like I kind of simplify that, but it is sort of a choice, just like anything else, of saying, we're changing the structure and this is the model, right? So you're kind of modeling it out of, hey, instead of charging by the hour, we're going to have this scope of services, perhaps a menu of services, and or products or bundles or things like that get kind of grouped together, and there's prices on it, and those prices, you kind of roll that out to your customers. And I think it's communication and talking about it and effectively conveying why this is better for the customer and why it enables them to be served in a better way. And when they understand that, I don't think most people resist that type of those types of changes. They're like, okay, that sounds good. They probably want more from you anyway. If you're providing a service anyway, they're probably excited to have an option to get more from you. Yeah.
So, I mean, but I think the other side to that though is actually setting that pricing. I mean, are you setting it against competitive businesses? Are you looking, what's the basis for it?
Well, that's a good question. Well, price is totally subjective, right? I mean, if you think about it, I think one of the greatest examples that I've heard is a can of soda at Sam's or Costco is 5 cents, right? If you were to buy a bunch of them. If you go to the regular grocery store, it might be a quarter, right? You go to a fast food restaurant and it might be, $2. You go to AT&T Stadium down here in Dallas on the day of a, Cowboys game, and you're probably going to be paying $10 for that same soda, right? So the price is relative depending upon when someone needs it, their perceived value, and how thirsty they are, where they are, what they need it for, the timing, all those things. I mean, to me, that's the one thing you have to look about pricing. Where do you sit in the span, right? There's such a large, I guess what makes sense to me is to be really thinking about what where I want to be positioned in relative to the competitors, right? Do I want to be, is this a more cost effective service? So it's just a production oriented thing, or is this more of a concierge level or very exclusive type of service or product where the price is going to be a lot higher and it's not going to be right for everybody? Yeah, there's just such a large range of where that could be. But I think that depends on the brand you're trying to build and where you personally, the business you want to build to fit into that span.
Yeah. I guess as a buyer, we're looking at that from the perspective of ROI. We're spending the money. We're saying, hey, you know what? As a result of that, we should expect, X, Y, Z. I mean, what is a way? What's a practical way to go about like this buying process?
Oh, so as someone who is purchasing those services or products, man, I think that's an interesting question just to think about, like maybe psychologically. And this is definitely not my area of expertise, but I feel like the mind of the buyer is a weird thing. I mean, we've all done this before. I mean, like, how many times have you gone to a restaurant or something and you're like, you bought a crazy expensive bottle of wine, right? Because you wanted to. Maybe it was a special occasion, or you had guests in town, or it was a really important customer who we were entertaining, whatever. And then there's been other times running their grocery store and you're like, $7.99 for that bottle of wine. I'm not buying that. I think the bottom line is that buyers are just where they're strange. You know what I mean? So we have to approach the buyer maybe from a situational standpoint, right? And how do we try to replicate the mindset that they're in every time they are purchasing this particular thing, right? So we can get them to consistently, because if you'd had a really awesome bottle of wine at a restaurant with your friends or your colleagues or something, and then you saw that bottle in a grocery store, you actually might pay more for it. You're like, oh, I remember that experience. That was a really good bottle of wine. Maybe the wine wasn't any better than anything else, but you've associated things to it now. And it changes your perception. A lot of it just has to do with the personal experiences of the buyer. So I guess that would reinforce maybe even more why it's important. And so many people focus on the experiential aspects of their brand and their service and their product, because it will garner a higher price because people have those associations in their mind. So
yeah. That's great. I felt like I heard you put your marketing cap on. So that degree.
What? Oh my goodness. Okay. We need to like scurry back over to the accounting stuff.
Let's do that. So I get the other part of return on investment, or not the other part, but, directly related to that. So in the same way, we're going out about our hiring process, and so we're saying, a certain person that we want to bring into the organization, or a certain role, has to have a certain return on investment. And I don't know that we always think that way, but, how do you, what are your thoughts on that? How do you kind of structure that for the win?
Wow, I feel like this is probably the area where most business owners struggle when it comes to the people side of things, because it feels so much more personal. If there was no subjective pieces to this, like, I like you, right? I like you as a person. You're a good person. Like, then it would be a lot easier to make decisions about people. But unfortunately, that's not the case, right? We have all these other emotions associated with things. So I'll give you an example that's probably a little bit more accounting related. So business owner starts a business. They hire a person who works in their office who does their books and all these other things, right? Been with them a long time. Business starts to grow, starts to scale. like they start investing in other people, right? But this one person in their office who manages like maybe the financial aspect of things, they just don't have the skill set to keep up with maybe the complexity of the accounting, the cash flow forecasting, maybe some of these other sophisticated things like helping drive the strategy of the financial aspects, the banking relationships. I mean, there's so much that goes on, right? So owners like, I can't get rid of them because they helped me when my business was small, right? They have this emotional, sentimental, personal attachment to that individual, even though they know in their minds that person cannot do the job I need them to do. That is one of the biggest struggles with business owners.
Oh, yeah.
And I would just say that that's probably the piece they need to learn to get over a little faster. They need to thank that person for their time and effort, for helping them so much, but they're truly doing their business a disservice, and probably that person too, by trying to get them to do something that maybe they never even really wanted to do. They've now just being forced into this new role. I mean, a totally different situation. Maybe if they're like, I'm going back to school to get my accounting degree, I'm going to be a CFO, I got my CPA license. I mean, like if they're growing with the organization, that's one thing. But if they're just, so many times I see like a bookkeeper who's got a CFO title and no qualifications in between. And so that can be a real challenge. So I would tell people this: really think about your motivations and your intentions and be honest with yourself about whether employing that individual is serving you or serving your business. And sometimes you got to do hard things, but choose your hard.
Yeah. That's a very painful situation and conversation. When it has to happen. I think there's another piece to that though. When I think about developers, for example, we have developers on our team, and they're paid on a salary, and they have to produce a certain amount of work, over the course of a month or whatever, and if they don't do that, that causes problems for the company. Obviously, we have to provide the work, but there's definitely almost an objective line, that I can say, okay, we've got to bill, X number of hours per month. Is that an atypical or a typical approach?
Well, I think it's always great to have metrics. If any of your listeners are fans of EOS or the entrepreneurial operating system, I mean, the number one thing it says in there is that everybody's got a number and you manage to that number. So, it's good to have those types of metrics in place. But on that same side, like there's like other evaluations, like yes, metrics are important, right? However, there's also like the, idea of do they fit in with your culture, you follow your mission, core values. And do they, if you follow EOS, they also ask for like, the plus minus on do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity for it? And those are good measurements too. And sometimes that is more subjective, but maybe I like, Rick, I like your approach here of thinking like about balancing out the subjective with the objective, right? I think it's important to look at results for sure. But I think it's also important to not discount the fact that if someone's not delivering results, even though they may fit in culturally, like from core values and stuff, like you got to do what's in the best interest of the company. Even if they're a good person, and I get it, it's hard, it's tough. Those are your most difficult decisions. But the best interest of the company, what serves the company, that's really becomes the more important question. And those things show up in the financials and the bottom line and the production and all the other elements of the things that you're trying to build.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I always look at it like everybody else in the company is looking for me to make the right decisions. You know what I mean? Everybody else has families. So if I'm not making good decisions, it kind of it actually trickles down. Not even kind of.
Yeah. It will force it's like directly correlated, right? Like, yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Now, you like to talk about return on stuff. What other areas of the business do we want to take a hard look at, really with when we're looking at returns?
Man, when we start talking about returns, I say, what does return on accountant look like? Is what I say. A lot of people say, oh, accountants, those fees you pay, professional fees, or even, if it's a line item in your salaries, right? That is an expense. It's kind of a sunk cost, and it's kind of like a necessary evil, maybe is the way that, most people view accounting. I say that is a fallacy. That is wrong. Really, accounting is an opportunity center and not a cost center. There are so many possibilities to glean insights, to obtain data, to understand the potential of a business when you start using the accounting function in the best way. So when, I think a lot of people will spend the bare minimum, like just get it done for tax prep, or just give me enough to satisfy the bank so they're happy, right? Instead of really thinking through strategically, how can I use this function to give me all the information that I need to make this business the best it can be? And how can I leverage that? And truly, the accounting records are the greatest source of data. There's so much of it. They are just rich with data. And in a lot of cases, just not used. Nobody ever looks at it. So, I mean, I think it could be anything from like thinking about the types of projects that you work on. So if you make a lot of money, maybe your most significant profit is from one particular product or one particular project type or something like that. How do you sell more of those, right? Where is that business coming from? What is the origin of it? Is it purchased with something else? Like really starting to connect those dots and understanding how can we drive more of that? And if we do, what does that do to the bottom line, right? So getting a little bit more thoughtful about that. I think so many times people are expecting I don't know, maybe the basic function of accounting to yield that information, or maybe there's thinking it's magical. It's just a magical thing happen. But that's why it's so important to invest in that accounting function and the people who are running that function to help you to connect those dots and help you to really make those inferences from the data to the potential for your business.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen where accountants have come in. I actually had a friend, that walked into a company who's like, look, I can save you enough money to make my salary, to pay me, and he did that whole, this is the value that, what I'm offering you is worth. And it's like, okay, and then we can grow from here because I can show you where to invest, how to evaluate all of your different operational functions, et cetera, et cetera. It makes sense. It makes sense. What do you see as keeping people kind of on that fence, though? It's like, it seems like, hey, you know what? I need to call Susan today, right after listening to the show and make this happen. But I mean, what do you see as the blockers for folks?
Oh, I think it's a combination of things. One, I think it's not fully understanding the capacity at which accountants can function. I think that's one. And there's a lot of, even in our profession, there's a lot of professionals who just don't do the things that they say they're going to do, or they don't know how to do them. They hold themselves out to do something that they can't. So I think that's one aspect, is just finding the right person for your business, is locating that person who truly can help you in the best way possible. So I think, and that's hard for business owners because what time do they have to go out there and find that person, right? So they're dreaming of this person. I know that they are. You're like, if only I could find somebody who could do this for me. Yes, they're out there. Ask around, talk to people. This is not necessarily you going onto Indeed or, one of those job posting or even LinkedIn or something and searching for somebody. It's getting a referral from somebody who's seen that person in action. So start there. I think that's the first thing that's holding them back. The second piece of it is that it's investing. It's investing in themselves and investing more in the business. Uh, it is perceived to be, like I said, it's like, look, I just need tax returns and get my books updated. Like, that's enough. I'll try to figure out the rest. And so there should piecemeal this function instead of really harnessing it. So it takes money to invest it to make it right. I just don't think they've ever really spent enough money on it to know how good it can be and how much stress it really will take off of them. That value proposition that we talked about in the beginning, like they've just never felt that before. And once you feel the benefit of it's handled, that's handled, that's handled. I don't have to worry about sales tax, payroll taxes. I don't have to worry about cash flow. I don't have to worry about billing. I don't have to worry about my books being done. Banker's happy. IRS is happy. Nobody's on my, riding my butt. And I'm able to go and focus on the thing where I can make more money. That freedom, that emotional bandwidth, that mental capacity that gets freed, they've never experienced it. And so they don't know that it's worth putting some money into it to be free from that. But that is a freedom unlike anything else. It's just it is because this is stuff that weighs them down. I mean, how many times have you woke up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my gosh, did they get paid? Did that vendor get paid? Did that customer get paid? Like, you got payroll, right? Like, whoa, do I have enough money to make that? I mean, these are real things. I myself as a business owner, I mean, we've all had our struggles as a business owner. We know the things that keep us up. And number one is it's customers and money, right? Customers and money, like, did we get the customer handled? Because I need the money. they're right. They're always vying for the top spot there. But there's a better way for the money to be handled, knowing that if you can go focus on those customer activities with product or service. It does not matter. If you can be innovative, you can be the real visionary you are meant to be, you will make more money if you focus your time on effort on the things you're great at versus trying to kind of, band-aid a broken accounting function. And that goes for any other function in your business too. Marketing, ops. I mean, we see it all. I'm sure you've seen it too, right? I mean, invest in that business,
Absolutely. Wow. That was great. That was absolutely great. Thank you for that. I think everybody's going to get a lot of value out of just what you said in the last clip. That was amazing. Susan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show. Folks, make sure you tune into the next episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, and we'll see you then, okay? Take care.